Okay, well, welcome everyone. Appreciate everybody being here. Innovation Talk is something that we started at the Innovation Center, and the purpose of it was to connect people who own business and know business with people who are starting a business and needing to get to know business and how to run it, kind of as a mentor thing. Most of you here probably know Alex, and that's why you're here. Alex is the owner of Alex Meisner Construction Company and is the largest construction company in Iron County and one of the largest in southern Utah. I've known Alex for a couple of years, and he's done a great job with everything that I've ever seen him do. I've gotten to know him a little bit more just over the last just the last week, and one of the things that I've noticed was when he talks about his business, it's all based around his business model, his business structure, how he does things, how things are performed. There's time limits on there, and there's huge organization on there, and he sticks to that organization. And so I think that's the story that we're going to hear today. So we really appreciate everybody being here. We especially appreciate Alex being here. And so we'll go ahead and start, and we'll hear it for Alex. So one of the things that we do, Alex, is we eat a dinner with the clients of the Innovation Center beforehand. And so we talked a lot about what it takes to start a business.
Yes.
What it takes for you to maintain a business, but we'll get into that stuff a little bit, down the road. But why don't you just start and tell us kind of what got you started in the construction world?
Okay. How are you guys? Are you guys nervous? I'm nervous, so relax, just be okay. Anyway, so what I did from early age, so I was probably 12 years old, and I didn't have to wear long sleeves and a button-up shirt, but we had to start working at 10, 12 years old in my house. So I started stocking roofs, shingles. So I would pack the shingles up on the roof and load the roof before forklifts and before all that stuff. So I did that at 12 years old. From 12 to 15, I was just construction, roofing. From there it was framing. From there it was electrical. From all those years it was pretty much work until I got to high school. And then obviously I was able to go to high school, and then I would have to work after that. So that's how I started. I was always in construction. I never really had a choice. It was just basically, I had a choice, but it was basically just, this is what we do. We go to work, and if you're not gonna work, then what are you gonna do? This was back in the 90s, so that's kind of how I started. From there, it was basically learn how to do everything so that I could at least run what I had to do to not have to do everything that I used to have to do. If anyone in construction knows what I mean, it was more or less that.
So you started in that, it was in your family, it was in your blood.
Yep.
That's kind of what you thought you'd probably always go into, am I right thinking that?
Yeah, pretty much. Obviously we were able to go into anything. My other siblings didn't do it right off the bat. I have a brother that did it later in life, so I didn't have to do it, but I was good at it. I knew how to do it. I wasn't afraid of working, and I stuck with it.
So how old were you when you started your first construction company?
I actually was old. I worked for family for years, 10 to 15 years. I've only had Alex Meisner Construction for 12 years.
12 years.
So 12 years I've done my own thing.
Wow. You had a huge growth, right, with this last, with the
Yep.
COVID thing coming in.
Yep.
Are you okay with telling us how many houses you built during the last year?
Yeah, it's kind of hard because whether you take 120 contracts a year or close 120 houses a year, you can't really do that by the year, because houses roll over into the next year. But we've averaged about 120 houses for the last 4 years.
Wow.
Per year. When I first started, though, I did one. I did one house my first year. I did 3 houses my next year, and I didn't plan on that. I used to tell everybody I was good for like 50 houses a year, and then it ballooned into this idiot, and then now it's 120 a year. So
120 is pretty good. So
it's a lot. It's too many.
Well, so how did you scale from that though? From one house a year You know, taking what you made off that one house a year, obviously it grows quite a bit, but it takes a lot of organization to get to that point. Tell us about just a little bit about your structure with how you kind of evolved into taking on more houses.
So with any business, I guess you would call it XYZ, whatever, and then you have a checking account. And with one house, it was easy. I was able to follow that house, pay the bills. It was super slow. 3 houses was a little bit more. 5, 15, 25 houses, then I had to go from one end of town to the other end of town. And then by the time you do that, you figure out, all right, this is not going to work. I got to do something in a way that I can have a system in place that would not have to make me run all the way over town. So if everybody knew how I needed it to be done, then I didn't have to go there as much. So I started implementing systems, whether it was at the office or whether it was in the field. So people out in the field knew exactly what I was expecting them to do. My office knew what I was expecting. And when I say my office, it was like my wife. So yeah, it's not like we had an office. My first office was my home office for probably 6 years.
Which is typical for a startup, right?
Yep. I met people there. I did everything there. We would chase everybody down all day long and go to flooring stores and cabinet stores. It's exhausting. And then we started making a system on how to do that faster, how to do that more efficiently. You know, putting allowances in place that made it so that the 80-hour color pick was now more a 10-hour color pick. So that allowed me to go do more, and then I did more, and then I did more, and then I expanded into an office with the design center, and then hired more staff, and then that staff knew exactly how we were supposed to run things and what they needed to follow. So it was basically a system.
So it was really based off of one thing that I've kind of noticed that you have, and you don't like to waste time.
Oh, I hate wasting time. I cannot stand it. So people that waste time, people that take lunches all day, hours lunches because they owe it to themselves. I'm not a huge fan of that stuff. So most people will invite me to lunch, or the sales call, or the wasted time. I cannot stand that stuff. And I'm not against it. I want to go meet everybody, but I don't need to go sit down at lunch and waste an hour, because during that hour I could be doing so many other things. Yeah. So
you just have to ask. You just have to say, "Hey, come sit in front of a crowd."
Yeah.
And then say, "Go to lunch with me," and that's how you get them to lunch.
Yeah, and I should explain to everybody. If you text me longer than a sentence, I'm not going to read that text. I will skim that text, and that is how this happened. So I skimmed through a text from Isaac, and I was like, sure, that's fine. And I scheduled a meeting at my office at 10 a.m. on Thursday until I read the text back, and it was at the evening on Thursday, and then this is where we're at. So yeah.
And then he started to realize that we were advertising it on Facebook and social media.
Yeah, oh yeah, I caught hell on that, and friends and subs.
But it is great to have you here. So here's one thing that I've noticed about the Alex Meisner experience, if you can call it that. So I had a house fire. My family had a house fire back in 2019. Obviously, we went shopping for a contractor. We have a mutual friend, and we had met before. Called Alex up. Alex said, "We can have this done in 4 months," and it was a complete rebuild. Yep. And other contractors, even though they were good, they said, "Hey, it's going to be 9 months. It's going to be 15 months," and that wasn't okay for my family, right? So the process that you're talking about, you creating, really pays off for you as a business owner, but pays off for the customer too.
Yep.
Everybody wants to be in their house, right?
Everybody.
So is that, along with other things that you've done, what's driving customers to Alex Meisner Construction?
I don't know what's driving them. I mean, the reputation is definitely that we are on time, we're on budget, we're easy to work with. So everyone's heard the horror stories where they built a house and they're $100,000 over budget. First of all, if you're $100,000 over budget, that means I have to keep track of that $100,000. I don't want to do extra work. So if you're going to come to me, you're going to tell me that you've got X amount of money. Mm-hmm. I will tell you exactly what I can build for X amount of money. If you want to tell me X amount of money and then have this secret $100,000 extra fund, I'm not your guy. So if you tell me that you have X amount of money, I'll tell you exactly what I can build. I'll tell you exactly how much you can spend on things, and I'll tell you exactly how long it's going to take. So with the past 12 years, we would do that and we did that in enough cases where our reputation was, okay, he's got the subs, he's got the budget, he's got the knowledge to get it done. And then we just kind of kept that reputation rolling through each house. And that's kind of the scope of things. Everybody does it different, and I don't know how they do it, but I know how I did it, and that's kind of what keeps people from coming back.
Do you do much marketing?
No. So I was joking earlier that I graduated with typewriting class. Like I didn't have the internet. In fact, I think there was DOS my very last year in high school. Like
nobody in the
I was leaving
DOS
and dial-up was ringing in the back room. But I didn't know any of that stuff, which doesn't mean I couldn't have learned it. But I don't do much marketing. I like to sponsor local high schools and local businesses with advertisement, but I'm not a huge marketer. I know the School of Business will tell you have to spend so much of your salary on marketing and get it out there. Great, that's probably for those businesses. But no, we just try to do word of mouth and more reputation versus signage and things like that. And
you really, like when you're talking like this, you're making it sound like this was an easy task for you to do, but I know business, I know startups.
Yeah, it was not easy. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. And then when you're married, your wife's, you know, she's either got to be all in or all out, because if you're working at 2 a.m., you know, going over budgets in your office, I mean, she's got to be game with it. So no, it's not easy. It's hard.
What was the hardest part? From beginning that 12 years ago to now.
The hardest part, I don't know if there's anything that's hard. It's all hard. I don't know if there's anything that's just impossibly hard, but times change. I guess the hardest thing is to keep up with change. Sure. You know, things change all the time. Codes change all the time. Ordinances change all the time. The city changes things all the time. So if you're not up on that and you're doing it wrong, you're gonna have to do it. You're gonna have to go backwards and do it again. And I'm not a huge fan of doing anything again or going backwards. In fact, a couple subs are here and they know I cannot stand going backwards. So I don't know if there's anything that's hard. It's just you have to stay engaged, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. Is there anything that you would have done? Well, let me rephrase that. What would you tell yourself 12 years ago getting into this? Advice?
I would say don't do 6 subdivisions at a time. Don't do 120 houses at a time. You know, I actually would say hire people earlier than I did, because I still to this day I go to every single job every day, and I finally dedicated Tuesdays and Thursdays to office, which I hate the office, but I dedicated Tuesdays and Thursdays to the office so I can get FaceTime with new clients. But they have to come Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then I'm in the field Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturdays. And so if I had to go back, I would absolutely say hire somebody sooner so that you weren't so burned out and not want to do it anymore. I mean, not in a negative way, but
sure.
I would have hired help sooner. So
that's good to know. What was the fulfilling part of it?
Well, anybody that's in business wants to make money. I mean, that's easy. I mean, we all want to make money. So the fulfilling part is the money. You know, as soon as you start making this and then you start making that and then you start to realize, all right, so this does work. You know, it's fulfilling. I don't want to say it's the money, but that's why anybody does what they do. Yeah. It's sad, but as soon as you make the money, you kind of want to do more, and then you want to turn into be the helper more than anything. And so I made the money, and now I just want to go keep working, but I'd rather go do other fun things while my other guys work now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've noticed, I noticed along the way, nothing was ever publicly said, but I kind of put things together. And there were a couple of situations that I realized that you really kind of helped out people that were in an unfortunate situation, which kind of took you to a new area that you're kind of exploring right now.
Yeah, so we've done it for a few years. We started a foundation, so it's the Ajm Foundation. That foundation actually partners with SWATC. We dedicate so much money a year to scholarships. So we would like to help the construction trades, whether it's electrical, plumbing, I can't remember what else you guys do, but anyway, we dedicate foundation to scholarships. And then for the last few years, we've dedicated construction needs, disaster relief, or I don't want to say handicap, but just special needs. So houses that need special needs that nobody wants to go do. So we try to do all that kind of stuff. And I hate, yeah, you're not even supposed to talk about this, but I don't want the recognition. And so when we go do help like that, I mean, like there's a couple subs right here, great guys. They might have helped in that in that house that we dedicated to the flood. But I got subs and suppliers, and I had, you know, hundreds of people dedicate their time to that house, and I don't want myself to gain that reward. Sure. So yeah, that's why we don't do that. But we do have a foundation that runs stuff for that if it happens again.
Yeah. Why do that though? Like, is there some principle that's in that of a give back thing that?
It's just fun, man. I mean, it's great to help people. You know, I love to help people. Yeah. Anybody that's in business or anybody that's in the room, we all know that people suck. I mean, people just suck. Most people are okay, but there are people that suck.
Right.
But if you can help somebody, we will absolutely help somebody. And I love it.
Yeah.
I'll dedicate time to go run equipment myself wherever I need it, and I love it. I get a kick out of it.
Yeah. So, no, it's great. So overall, what has been your most fulfilling part of growing Alex Meisner Construction?
I mean, fulfilling, I don't know, because I'm not done yet, but fulfilling, just the success. I like the success.
Yeah. Do you when you build something, you're in there every day checking on things. Well, you're in there very often checking on things. Do you like to see that progression of what
I love it,
is being created?
I do. So this is kind of funny because in my perfect world, I just take the house from draw. So I draw all my own houses. I just want to get it from there to four-way inspection. Mm-hmm. If you guys want to take it over from there, be my guest. I just want to get the house framed and four-way inspection, and then I want to give it to somebody else to go finish it, or a designer or somebody that can just take it from there.
What's the four-way inspection?
Four-way inspection means it's ready to drywall. Okay. And so the hard part, well, it just depends on who you ask, but the hard part is from concept, budget to four-way to drywall. And then after that, it's boring because it's just carpet, tile, and nobody likes tile guys anyway. So it's just, it's just that's me. But yeah, absolutely. I love going back. I love going to see the finish. I like to see the people excited, and it's fun.
Do you put your own special touch on things every once in a while?
Yeah, we try. We try to do everything unique. We try to do something special for every home. Some houses just don't really need it. We try to design everything like nobody else would have it. I hate doing the same thing, and I hate doing things twice. When people show me ceilings or something that I've done in the past, I'm always like, I don't know. I don't know. That's been done. So I think I probably did that with yours.
Mine's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I've done that. So it's hard. I mean, I'm a pain in the butt. It has to be new or it has to be unique. And I'll certainly do what everybody wants, but that's the finish stage. And I don't want to do the finish stage. I want to do the hard stage.
That's great. So to those people in here that are starting a business, they're really new. They're just barely out of the gate with this. What's your best advice?
We were talking in the room. Most people that start a business have no idea about the money. I mean, it's, in my opinion, I mean, that was one of 10 things we talked about, but the money. And so the money side of the new business is usually what everybody screws up on, in my opinion. I have friends that have new businesses, and they absolutely have no idea how much money it takes to run it, how much money it takes to produce what they're doing, how much money they're making, who's handling the money. And so I know that's dumb, but it's the money. It's okay to have an idea, but if you have no idea what it's going to cost to actually make money, then there's no sense of doing that business. So we talked in the room that I run my own QuickBooks, I run my own checks, I write my own everything. So I make my own budgets, I know everything about the money. I know how much profit is in each home, I know how much profit there isn't in each home sometimes. But when we expanded into development, that's a whole different ballgame, and I run that too. So I run all the developments that we do, and I run all the books, and I run all the budgets, and that's, in my opinion, the most important part. Because if you're just going to go own a business, anybody can go get a business license. But if you don't want to run your own money, then that's a mistake, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I want to talk about one more thing, and then we want to turn it over for questions. But during the floods, I can't remember what did they call it? A 100,000-year flood. What did they end up on?
I don't know. I don't even know who's in charge of that. Who's in charge of the?
Danny, do you know what that flood was?
No, I can throw out a number.
It's a big one.
See,
Let's say it's a big one, right?
yeah.
So, okay, it's some big floods that we had.
Yep.
Some of your, new developments, just like a lot of other neighborhoods, they were flooded.
Yep.
I saw a picture of you out on a Traco that was on Facebook. Why would you do that? I mean, you're in there jumping on.
Yeah. I have no problem. I have no problem doing the work. I'm so used to it. In fact, I can't even sit still right now. And I'm nervous, but I cannot sit still. So if I have time, I'm going to go do whatever I can do.
Right, but you didn't put the water there.
Oh, I know, but I'm a developer, so it's all my fault. So, and
But
anyone that's in this room that's a developer knows that it's all the developer's fault. But
I mean that you could have just said, hey, well, somebody else would take care of that. But you felt the responsibility or just a desire. What was it?
yeah, it's both. It is my ability to go help whoever. I mean, I'll go. I have the equipment. I have the means. I can go do whatever I can do to help. I have no problem helping. A lot of people will just wait for that somebody. It's always some government's problem, in my opinion. It's we're the government, so just go help. And so I had no problem helping. Most people had no idea who was helping. I actually got yelled at while I helped, but he didn't know I was the developer, and I was just helping him. And he even thanked me after that. I still never told him who I was, but I was the guy that created the rain, and then I wrecked his yard, and then I was actually there helping. But it doesn't matter to me. It's not, it's not a huge deal to help people.
Yeah, I mean, what drives you to want success, though?
I don't want to be average. Huh. You're allowed to be average, but I don't want to be average.
So you just keep plugging through until you don't feel like you've hit that yet?
So you are allowed to go as high as you want. I'm allowed to go as high as I want, and I don't think I've hit it, but I don't think I want to go any higher. I'm good. Like, I don't have any more kids at home. I have a 5-pound Yorkie that wants to hang out with me all the time. So he comes to work with me, but I'm not done by any means, but I'm good. I don't need to go any higher.
So you start a nonprofit organization that gives back.
Yep. Yeah. So that's kind of, I mean, that's not higher, but that's kind of where I want to go.
That's cool.
We're still going to do what we do, but I want to do that and help where I can help.
Yeah, I think that's great.
So
I don't want to be average. I like that.
Yeah, you can be average.
Sure.
I hope that doesn't mean, or that was not bad, but we need average. I just don't want to be average.
But you have to put in the work to get that to the part wherever you want to get to. You have to put in that work. It's your responsibility.
Yep. Yeah. If you want to be a leader, you got to be a leader.
Yeah.
You can't just pretend to say you're a leader unless you actually go out and lead. And so if you don't want to be average, go be a leader. And if you want to be a leader, be a good leader. And then if you want to do that, then you can go wherever you want. So
awesome. Any last advice that you'd give before we open it up for questions?
I don't know if anyone should listen to me. I don't know. I don't have advice. I just would say, if you're gonna do something, I have lots of friends that do multiple things, and I think that's great. If you can do multiple things, go do multiple things. But if you know you can do one thing good, just go do that one thing good until you're good enough to go do other things. But if you're gonna start a business, start a business. Like I said, I've got friends that do daytime jobs and then they do their business. Their business is never gonna go anywhere if they don't just jump. So I guess just jump.
Take the risk.
Yeah, take the risk. Might cost you something, but we're not allowed to fail anymore because it's all posted somewhere. Just junk.
That's awesome.
Right? I don't know.
That's great. Well, thanks. It's fantastic. We're going to open up for some questions and see if anybody has any questions that are, just geared towards just your, business or anything that has to do with the business strategy or advice, even anything like that. Go ahead and fire those off.
How many people do you employ, and how do you keep
So I actually
the
only.
ranks filled?
Oh, he's okay.
Yeah, how many do you employ, and how are you finding the right people to do
So-
what you got to do? I mean, your plate's full, so.
So in my office, I have 2 employees. I have a design assistant kind of thing, and then I have just kind of a everyday invoice stacker, invoice kind of person. So I have 2 in my office, and I have 3 supers in the field. And in order to work for me, and this is not a thing, but this is kind of how it progressed. In order to be my super or employee, whatever, you would have had to work for us for years. So the guys that I had already worked for us for years, whether they were a framer or something. And then they went from a framer into our situation. So I only have 3 supers and 2 office staff. And I'm good. I don't want to go any bigger than that. So in fact, I barely had 3 supers until just a year ago. And that's too many, because I know that sounds crazy because we do so many, but they are actually only quality control type people. I personally get the house all the way up to 4-way, and then they can take it from there, and then they quality control the rest of the subs. Does that make sense?
It's got to take more than that group to get 120 houses built in a year, so it's all subs?
That's the group, yeah. So, and it's the same subs, so that's a good question. That is a good question. So my subs are the same subs that I've used for 10 years. Obviously there's a new one here and there, but if that sub doesn't know how we do it, they're probably not for me. So that subs they know exactly how I need it, exactly what's expected every home. They know how to follow our system too. So our system comes from the office, and our girls put it out there for all the subs to read or to handle. And so that system probably replaces about 5 employees. All right, well, that's okay.
Got a couple.
Well, just as efficient as your business is, and the system seems to go back to systems a lot, on just having systems on how things are done. How difficult has that been to develop those? Now you've probably got hundreds, if not thousands, of systems for different things. Is it like a formal system or just kind of casual? But I know you've got it dialed in.
Yeah.
So how do you create those systems?
It changes all the time. So I was talking to a guy the other day that it's a local guy who I respect a lot. Big company here in town. They started with 2-page contracts, and so did we. So we used to have like a 1-page contract, and then we shook hands, and then that was it. Now we're up to 6-page contracts and 50-page warranty items, and then along the lines they are signing off. So it wasn't like an overnight thing. So we started one thing. We knew what we had to do to help us at the time. So let's say we were doing 5 homes at a time, or 5 homes a year, or whatever. We knew how many things we needed to help us do those 5, and then those 5 things grew to 10 different systems, and then that became one great big system. We're using the word system, but it's basically just a procedure of how we do things. And it evolved. It evolved over 10 years.
Well, it's probably constantly evolving, right? Or
Yeah, I hate
it's
change.
changed, like you were saying, change.
Yeah, it's changed. I don't like change too much, but that's when I mentioned hiring people. So my wife is actually one of the ones that started the procedures. So she was starting those procedures, and then we hired an office manager or an office staff, and then we learned how they needed to be shown how to do things different, and then that turned into another procedure. So yeah, it was growing. It was ever changing. So hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
And Danny had a question back there.
I don't know if you need this for you or
Yeah, it's for
Okay.
the
All right. I appreciate everything you've told us tonight. And a big part of business, for every business, no matter what it is solving problems and dealing with challenges. It sounds like a big part of your systems involves your scheduling and your timing. How has the supply chain problems this past year affected your system and your ability to keep up with those timing goals?
It's been interesting. For example, anybody that's in the trade, I mean, this is just a stupid easy example, but Windows, let's say. Windows went from 4 weeks to 14 weeks out. That means I personally have to start working before anybody starts working 14 weeks in advance. So I have to know what I'm doing 14 weeks in advance so that those windows are at the house right after I frame the house. So it's been rough. I mean, it's been hard. So I used to work 4 weeks in advance. Now I'm 12 to 14 weeks in advance, me personally. And you just have to roll with it, because you either roll with it or you quit. And it's getting better, but I don't know. I think it's going to be the norm. I think from now on it's just going to be the normal, and I'll just evolve. I evolve. That's why I don't ever go to city council or anything like that, because I just want to learn what they changed tomorrow. I don't want to go and argue about it. I just want you to wake up, tell me what I got to do different tomorrow, and then I'll just figure it out. That's all.
We have one right here. Question? Sorry, we passed the mic around awkwardly because we were recording it and we need to have that audio.
I've got 2 questions, but they're pretty brief. The first one is, it sounds like your systems, if I understand it correctly, more than anything is just managing what your expectations are. Could you give like a percentage of how much a system is just your, like, oh, this is what Alex wants versus an actual like procedure?
It is. It's 50-50. So the procedure is more for the homeowners. And so the system is more for the homeowners to understand how we're going to start and then how we're going to finish. The expectations in the field, the subs, they just kind of know how I've done it in the past. They know kind of what we like. They know that I need to be there to do this certain thing or that certain thing. So we've put it out there so many years that it's just automatic. So now it's just automatic. They just kind of know what it's going to take before Alex gets there to figure out, if it's going to work or not.
Okay. And then the second one is, could you give us a glimpse of maybe like how many hours a day or a week you've worked and if that's evolved over the past 12 years?
Yeah, I used to be easily 10, 12 hours a day out in the field, and then I would go put in about 3-4 hours worth of office time. I mean, you gotta go to the office. I hate the office, like I said, but you gotta go to the office. And then I hired an office staff, and then I hired a super, and then that just kept me from not having to go do the stupid stuff. And as soon as I figured out how I didn't have to go do, and when I say stupid stuff, I didn't have to run across town to shut all the windows. You know, I didn't have to go make sure that the garage door was shut or whatever. So as soon as I got my first super, I knew that, oh man, I don't have to go over there anymore. Like now he's gonna do that stuff. So that actually went backwards. Then I was more 10 hours in the field, 5 hours in the office. And then I was 8 hours in the field, 6 hours at the office. And then I just started to say, all right, because I hate the office, just so you guys know. Tuesdays and Thursdays were gonna be office now. And then I just made it clear. So if you need me, I'm there Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then that became a thing too. And then realtors figured it out, and then homeowners figured it out, and then that's it. If you need me, I'm there from Tuesdays and Thursday. So, I mean,
are you still like 12 to 14 hours a day?
Oh yeah. I'd say 12, 10 to 12. And it's actually slowing down right now, which is actually really nice. And so it's about 8 to 10. And it's normal. And I know most people measure things in hours a day. I don't wake up and say, all right, well, it's time to go. It's just a constant. I wake up at 5:30, I go to the gym, I go to work, I go, I keep rolling, keep going. I go home when it's done. I know that sounds dumb, but I just go home when I'm done. So, and then I'm on the phone answering questions or doing whatever at night. So, but it's gotten better.
That's already right here. How do you know when to hire, and then how do you know when to spend money to grow? Those are kind of my questions right now. Is just what timing? Like, how do you know? All right, should you do it before you're ready, or I don't know, have you kind of crossed those bridges?
So it's hard to give up. It's hard to give up the things to some of the guys. It took me a while. It took me a while to get my first guy. And then when I figured out that the first guy would only be the quality control guy. Like I said, I personally take the house from the draw to budget. I hire all the subs. I tell them, when it's going to start. I actually do all the scheduling. I just give my guys the finished stage. And the finished stage is the whole house is already set up. All they have to do is follow my plan to the end. So as soon as I figured out that it was easy to have a guy do it, I hired a second guy, and that was easy. And then I'm not a big money taker. As soon as we were making money, I don't want to say I don't need money, but I didn't need all the money.
You could reinvest.
So as soon as I had a bunch of money, I just kept reinvesting it. And then I found this piece of land, or I found that. And I have people out there. So anybody that's a realtor in here, I'm sorry, but realtors are just, and it's like realtors, and I got this, and I got this, and I got this. Well, a couple times I thought, all right, well, that's actually not that bad. So as I didn't need the money, I just said, all right, let's go do that, and then let's go do this, and then let's go do that, and then that turned into that subdivision, and then 2, and then 3, and then land, and then we were doing land deals, and then we were doing big stuff. But it actually was hard because development's actually a full-time job too. So I had to split my development job between my construction job, and then it's just a whirlwind of how to put it all together, right? So the spend the money part was just, if you have it, do it. I'm not a borrower. I don't like to borrow. And so if I had it, I would do it. And then I would just do little chunks enough that I would just go do just enough chunk of that development that it would make its own money. And then every time I did that, I would create a new business. I would have a new company. So I have 7 different companies that have their own little heartbeat. And all those companies now make money. They all sell their own property, but they don't need the money. So they just keep multiplying land and multiplying lots. So the spending money part's easy because it spends itself. But you have to keep track of the ever-changing cost. And so you can't sell the last phase for any cheaper than the new phase is going to cost. So it's hard. But the employee thing is, as soon as you figure out that, oh my gosh, that is actually helping me, that's easy. You just got to find the right guy. Or I just had to find the right guy. So
For sure. Cool, thanks.
you're welcome.
I got 1,000 questions, but so I was going to ask about financing. So you're not a borrower, basically. You don't have a lot of investors that are pushing developments or anything.
I will say I'm not a borrower. I have investors, but I'm not a borrower. They are close friends.
So they're acquaintances that that are. I got you.
And those guys come after you, and if that makes sense. So those guys will find you.
Okay.
Eventually they're going to
So
just come.
if you look like a good opportunity, they'll reach out to you and say, "Hey, I got something for you. I want you to run it." Basically.
Yeah, kind of. So as soon as you start being successful, we were talking earlier. Any business wants money. They need capital. They need whatever. Whether you go get it from a bank or whatever, that's fine. But as soon as I was financing and building the homes that we were building, people see success, and then they just want to give you money. Obviously, they want it in return. But that's what happened. I have a really close, and what's kind of funny is all my friends are like 70 years old and older. But I had a couple friends that said, "What could you do with this much money?" And I was okay. I was like, okay, I could do plenty. Okay. And so then I pay them just enough to keep them smiling, and that's how it started. I don't really borrow money.
I got you. That's a weird question. What would you say sets a successful business apart from a unsuccessful business? I guess I don't want to say a failed business or anything like that. What about the owner though? Is it the time you put in? Is it the way you put in systems? Is it that you wake up in the morning and go to the gym? Is it
Yeah. It's
that
the
you
owner.
wake up earlier than everybody else? Is it that you work later than everybody else? What?
So
I guess
the
what
owner,
kind of combination? What would that look like?
so in your case, I mean, there's 1,000 people that do what you do. But you're the difference. I mean, you either gotta find out what that customer wants, and then how you're gonna do it different to make them happy. I mean, basically all you have to do is make the customer happy. But the second you get too busy and you start to give it to your guys in the shop or whatever, and then now your guys are building your
QC
your
goes
stuff.
down a little bit.
Yeah, your quality control sucks. My quality sucks right now. 120 houses a year is horrible.
Yeah.
So I think we need to be more like 60, 65 houses a year.
So basically, know your limit or
Yeah.
train someone to be able to do your type of stuff. Is
Yeah.
that possible?
I think it's possible, but you're never going to find anybody like-minded. If you're going to find somebody like-minded, they're going to go do their own thing.
Yeah.
And so that owner, if they if they want to start a business and then just give it to somebody else to run it for them, then that business is probably going to be short-lived. But if that owner is going to drive and we work 10 to 12 hours a day, and the guys that see you every day installing those gates and installing those things that's going to make your customer happy, then it's the owner.
No. Other?
That's good. 1,000 questions down to 2. I like that.
So my question is so growing up, did you always just know that you were going to be your own boss and just run whatever company it was, or?
Nope, I did not. So I worked with my dad when I was just little. He was always in construction, and that's just what we did. And then I graduated high school. I worked for my uncle in construction for a while. And sometimes you work for people that you actually, you learn a great deal from, and then you learn a great deal of what not to do with anybody. I mean, not my family, but so I was with my dad, then I was with my uncle, and then I was with my cousin. My cousin's Mark, and most of you guys might know Mark, but he was a great business-minded guy. So I learned from my dad how to work, my uncle how to kind of schedule. I learned from my cousin Mark. I worked for him for 10 years, and I learned kind of the business side of it. So I took all 3 of those things, and I was actually comfortable with Mark. I was good with just running the day-to-day for him. Until one day it just clicked, and I thought, you know what, I could. Actually, it was the recession. So 2008, 9, 10, it was dead. I mean, it was nothing. So 2010, I was like, you know what? If we're gonna be dead, I might as well go be dead by myself. And that's when it started. So did I always plan it? No.
Just another question with that, when you mentioned the recession, I know there's a lot of things with building houses that are outside of your control. Were you ever worried about failure, and how did you deal with that, or compartmentalize that?
No, I never really worried about failure. You just kind of have to know, anybody's gonna have to know how much money is it gonna take to survive a year, right? Whatever. Anybody can, I don't wanna say anybody, but I knew what I had to do to make it for that year. And so my first year I only did 1 house, and it was dead. The market was dead. In fact, I remember when I got the offer, I was shocked. I was like, somebody bought it. I was shocked. And I already made a deal for 7 lots. So, and that's kind of the other thing too. I love making deals. I want to go make deals with anybody. But I sold my first house, and I was shocked that it sold. And then it just kind of snowballed into more.
Thank you.
I'm still shocked.
Any other questions? Okay. Oh,
What's a healthy profit?
I don't know.
Percentage-wise?
So it's actually funny because it took me probably 5 years to figure out that I was probably worth more than I was charging. So for 5 years, because I used to do my own budgets, well, I always do, but back in the day I would make my own budgets, and I would stare at the screen and I'd be like, oh no, that's too expensive.
Too high or too low?
Yeah.
Kind of am I honest or am I dishonest?
I don't know if it's just so much that it's honest and dishonest, but I never really figured out that it should have been worth more than I was. And then finally about 5 years in, I thought, you know what, that's just what it cost. because after I was getting the houses built or doing whatever I was doing, I wasn't hitting the mark because things were just more than they should have been, or they were more than I kept erasing on the screen. And so 5 years in, I thought, you know what? That's just what it is. I mean, if the iron cost $1 million, iron costs $1 million. Like, what do you want me to do? And then finally, I figured out that that's it. And then profit was always a thing, but it was never really a set thing. So it was job by job. It was just kind of what's it going to take to do that. And I never added up and just add a percentage to the top of it, if that makes sense. Okay. So but I was always comfortable with whatever it was.
Yeah. How do you, gosh, that just left my mind, just floated away. Okay, so how do you compare, let's say someone walks up to you and says, hey, what do you build this house for? Well, I'll build it for $500,000. Well, Johnny down the street will build it for $450,000. Can you come down to $450,000? How do you justify saying, nope, I can do it for $500,000. This are the reasons why. This is what we do. But you can go talk to Johnny if you like. Or do you move your pricing? How do you justify that?
Back in the day.
Back when you started.
No, I'll tell you both. So back in the day, I used to always I wanted to make the deal. I didn't know. I always knew the numbers, and that's why I always ran the numbers myself. I could tell you what everything cost. But so I knew there was room. So if I was to move, I knew I could move. If I didn't, I would literally tell people I couldn't move. And if somebody was going to try to bluff me, I absolutely knew more than they did, and I knew there was going to be bad on them. So I guess that's one of the answers is I know everything costs. I know exactly what it's going to take. I know how long it's going to take. So that would be one of those ownership traits that if you don't know that part of it, then you probably shouldn't do it. But that took me 5 years to finally say, you know what, go have that guy do it then, because I got stuff to do over here. So at the beginning, I was always kind of like, maybe we could do that. Maybe we could move it. We were never moving $50,000, but I would do those things to the point where I didn't have to, because 5 years in, I had cancer. Actually, that's funny because the cancer that I had to do chemo a whole year. That's when I was like, you know what, forget this, because I don't want to do that no more. I don't want to fight like that no more. So after that year, that was the 5th year that I was like, it is what it is. And if you don't like it, then you can go hire that guy down the street. And then as many people started saying, no, we would rather have you do it, then it was like, okay, then let's do it.
Do you find that confidence in that? Like sometimes I have customers who are kind of wishy-washy, well, so-and-so. But if I say, look, that's what it costs, have a great day. Sometimes, but most of the time, they're like, okay, we'll write you a check right now. Do you find that there's confidence? Having the confidence, do you think that sells? Does that make sense?
I do. Confidence sells. Arrogance doesn't sell. And I hope I never come across arrogant, but confidence in your trade shouldn't be arrogance. But you could absolutely, instead of tell them, you could show them that there is absolutely nobody that can do it cheaper, or what, in your case, whatever. But you can definitely show them that you probably couldn't or shouldn't get it any cheaper. And then that will usually help people in the future. Model homes. I mean, I'm jumping all over the place, but model homes. So I started doing model homes years ago. And so that was another thing too. So if you really doubt what we're talking about, go see one, go walk through one, or go walk through this house, or go walk through that house. And that was more of a, okay, I can see what we're talking about now. I don't know how you do that with what you do, but you could easily say, if you think someone's cheaper, have them go match that product that I could show you right now.
Go look at 2 locations and give me a call.
Yep, and then we always had 50 homes to go look at, so it was just easy to say, this is why we're not going to change from what we're going to do. And a lot of people want stuff cheaper, and we will absolutely tell them that no, like I can't do it cheaper, because if I do it cheaper, then I have to come back 5 million times after you move in, and then that's going to be
Fix all the things
it's going to be a waste of our time and your time. So we try to convince them that if you really want us to do it, we'll do everything we can within your budget, but we can't go any cheaper than your budget. So hope that makes sense.
Yeah. think I saw your daughter raise her hand.
Oh. So,
I think, go ahead.
How do you keep all of your subs on schedule, where you have such a tight schedule? How do you keep everyone committed to the sub coming behind them?
so I know it's a sickness. I know how long it should take them. I know how long it's going to be from concrete to framing. I can go maybe 10 houses a month. So I know I can run 10 houses a month. So I won't do any more than that. So if I pour 10 foundations in a month, I know how many framing crews I have. I know how many crews the electricians have. And I literally just put it out there. I don't think any supers are in here for the other guys, but I'll text every Monday or Sunday. So I'm working on Sundays and I'll text them, okay, this week is this, 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 and this. And they just know that most of them, I don't want to say aren't allowed to go work for anybody else, but most of them know that they probably shouldn't go work for anybody else. So I have that same sub crew, whether it's 2 or 3 crews per sub.
So what about in the development phase? Not so much the home building, but your developments.
So these are actually good questions. So I'll go backwards too. I'm not a bidder, so I don't bid things. I don't send it out to 5 different contractors and I pick the best bid. I have one contractor. So when it comes to development, I have one contractor. So, and you probably know him, but I use one guy. And I go straight to that one guy and we draw this thing out and we just make a price together. And then the schedule between me and him is mutual. My subs are the same way. So I'm not gonna go bid 5 different like drywall guys. I'm not gonna go send 5 different plans to 5 different drywall guys and then just pick the most random one. My drywall guy is my same guy for 10 years. So he just knows that he has something coming up next week. And it might be 2 houses, it might be 1, it might be 5. So that just kind of keeps rolling to the next. The supply chain has slowed us down by a week in the build, and it drives me insane. Like if a house stands framing with no one in it for more than a week, I can't handle it. But that's just our new norm. So I'm usually working about 5 to 6 weeks ahead of the subs. So, and they're the same subs. So hopefully that.
Okay, great. Any last questions? No, we'll wrap it up. Oh, we got one more.
Say, like, with all the detail that are in a lot of your custom homes, and like it's like you said, it's a one-time deal that you're doing it. It's unique and everything. How do you get your subs to just know what they need to do to make that finished product the way you do? In your subdivisions, you know, they're all different, but they're similar.
Yeah.
But with these custom homes that you do, there's so many one-offs on all those things, and your subs have got to figure it out.
Communication. So you have to communicate to each sub of how it's going to be. You have to know what the end product's going to look like at framing. And so you can design on the fly, but if you don't know what you're going for, you can't frame it. Because framing, in my opinion, is the most important thing. So in most cases, my guys know. So I'm on site every day at framing.
You have like a meeting with them, say this is how it's going
to
get
always
everybody
a guy
on the page type thing.
Yep. There's always the owner of the framing crew or whatever. And I have 4 different framing crews and they all are the same guys. So I show up at framing every day. I'm the guy measuring the walls and I'm red paint. So if you guys go buy red paint, or if you guys go out by one of my houses, the red paint is Alex. So if you spray red paint on my house, we're gonna have a problem. So red paint's me. So I go through, I spray red paint, design, and I measure out things. And then they just know by now that they have to follow those designs. And then they know that the last day at cleanup, they're supposed to call me and we're supposed to walk details together. So it's a problem, but it's me. It's me at framing. And then that's how those details come to light in the finish. So if anybody wants to
That's a
be
real
a
skill and
super
talent to do that.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's insanity, but
Let's all go out and buy red paint.
yeah, don't go buy red paint. I'm red. You're allowed to use blue, orange, or whatever, but if you use red, we're gonna have a problem.
This is like how many? This is you got like
said 1,000.
900 and you
I
got
like
like
this guy.
991 left, so you're good.
when do you quit? Like, what's me? I would like to retire someday. When do you quit?
So I don't know.
What age do you have? What point do you have? Dollar amount? When do you quit?
So,
Or do you quit?
I'm so glad my wife's not here because she wants me to at least slow down. I don't think anyone should quit. I don't mind the word retire, but I still don't even know what the word retire means. I mean, I'm pretty young, but I always want to do stuff. I always want to move. I would always do development. I would always do real estate. I was at the gym every morning for an hour, and I figured out that I was wasting an hour at the gym. So I took realtor school at the gym for a couple months, and I got my realtor's license. So I always just want to keep doing something, you know. I'm learning Spanish now at the gym, so I'm trying to get there on Spanish, but I don't know if I'll ever retire. I'll always do something, but it's actually good that it's slowing down because it's just it's more healthy to slow down. So.
And do you have like a daily ritual, like wake up 5:30 every day no matter what, or go to the gym every day? Like, do you have a way to get yourself jazzed up for the day, basically?
Yeah, I mean, it's habit now, but yeah, I go to the gym every morning at the exact same time. And then, yeah, I mean, it's habit. I do the exact same thing every day. And when I don't do those exact same things, I'm just off. I'm off that day. So I stay the same thing every day. I feel like I eat the same stuff every day. We all get in those stupid habits where you drink the same thing, you go get coffee at the same time. I see Tim at coffee at the same time almost every day. Like, we are on the same schedule. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I just think that's how I know that I'm on schedule.
That's what gets you going.
Yeah. Yep. Most of my deals happen at the gym. I'm saying the gym, but it's basically from 5:30 to 7:30. Most of my ideas, or most of my development cost ideas, are, trade. We actually just traded today for a piece of property through trade, and I love that stuff. I think it's fantastic. But that came at the gym, so and they took the trade. But
Great. You have any last
heck no,
words
man,
of advice?
Get off this
All right.
chair. I'm sweating.
Well, we appreciate you coming. You did a great job, and I think we all have a lot to take from this. We appreciate it very much. So
Thank you.